You know who it is. It's G Sizzle in the building, and we're here with our guest, Desmond Dunham, an inspirational journey to making high school sports history. It's called Running Against the Odds. It is a book, but not only is it a book, it's a life guide. It's something that we thought you should know, someone we thought that you should know. Welcome, Mr. Dunham. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, sir. Well, let's just get started right from the bat.
Yep.
Once I see this book, it's an amazing book. It's an amazing book to feel.
Thank you.
And it's not just one of those normal guides when you say, oh, this is a coaching guide or this is just one of those manhood pieces.
Yeah.
This is a book that gives you a life lesson. So let's start off by telling our listeners who you are, where you come from, and how this all came about.
All right. So, born in Gary, Indiana. I went to Horseman High School, and I was very fortunate that that I went out for my high school cross country team, and I had been cut from numerous other school teams, basketball, even cross country in middle school at Tolliston. And somehow I found my way onto this this cross country team, and ended up finding a passion and love in running. But even more so, I found my father figure in life. And it was a guy, Roosevelt Pulliam, who we call Chief, who became a father figure, and that changed the entire trajectory of my life. And I have a story where I overcame so many different obstacles and odds, and hence that's the title of the book, Running Against the Odds. And I wanted to tell this story because, as I already shared with you, if I can be successful at some things in life, anyone else can. And I thought that if I told my story, it would be inspiring to others, and it would help others to overcome some of their challenges that they're facing in life.
Now, one of the things we talk about is always inspiring and motivating. We're always trying to encourage and uplift those around us. But walk the listeners through, what was it like growing up in Gary as a child?
Gary was a tale of two cities. I absolutely love Gary. It's my anchor. I wouldn't want to be from any other place. But we also suffered in Gary as well. We had the steel industry that was booming at one point. That started to plummet, and then everything else started to change in our environment. As we lost overseas bids with the steel industry, there were massive layoffs, so unemployment was high, and as a result of that, educational levels went down. Crime went up, homicides went up. Unfortunately, we were the homicide capital of the U.S. Gangs were rampant. And so navigating a lot of those challenges in Gary, I was very fortunate to have the family that I did, but to have that support. But it would, needless to say, it was a lot of challenges. And I also had some educational challenges as well. So challenges in the environment, dealing with a speech impediment. I wasn't the cool kid in class being pulled out for speech therapy. And I also have dyslexia. So, even writing this book was an arduous task for me. However, I did learn, at an early age from Chief that when you start something, you finish it, and you don't have to be the best to do your best. And so it took me 18 months to put, that to publishing. Is something I'm, really proud of, but more so, I want now to use this as an opportunity to have other people to shine. Yeah.
One of the things you talk about all the time is inspiring and uplifting, but how were you inspired coming out of Horseman?
Yes.
And I must say, shout out to my alma mater. For those who don't know, Horseman is and was an institution on the west side of Gary, the not far west, but near west, so that nobody can say, well, it's like West Side. No, it was Horace Mann. But how were you able to overcome learning disabilities, all the things that you were doing, and matriculate to Howard University? Tell listeners that story.
So, I mean, the one thing that I will say, that having dyslexia and dealing with a speech impediment, it made me find other superpowers. And I began to find other strategies. And I want to say that, maybe I didn't have a photographic memory, but I was pretty sharp in remembering formulas and being able to picture things that I've seen, previous. And I was able to navigate quite a bit, in my learning, became very analytical. And so through that, those challenges, I do feel like I've developed these other superpowers. And so I would always figure out a way to get the job done. My mother, she worked 24 to 28 hour, shifts for my sister and I. She made a lot of sacrifices. Unfortunately, my dad, he fought in the Vietnam War. When he came back, he wasn't the same guy. His vice became alcohol. So he was an alcoholic, he was abusive. So here it was, I wasn't comfortable in school. I wasn't always comfortable in my environment, and wasn't even comfortable in my own home. And so just survival tactics, just figuring things out that, along with my mother being a phenomenal example, you just don't give up and you figure out a way to get the job done. And lo and behold, after taking the SAT 3 times, I barely made the super score for the SAT, and I became a pretty good runner. So Howard University took me in. I was probably the last person selected to go to Howard. And once I got there, I have to say that I was amazed with the experience of true Black education. I was around some of the most powerful and some of the brightest minds, and that was a journey that I stumbled on. I wish I could say that I intentionally went to Howard University, but I stumbled on it, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And that's where I really learned to be a proud Black man in America.
One of the things when we talk about Black activism, working in the community, moving forward, you ran track at Howard.
Yes, yep.
How did you translate from running track to then coaching track and then having students or young people who were excelling at sports? How did that all come about? What was that passion that led you into becoming a coach and then moving forward from there?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, again, it was something I stumbled into. I got my bachelor's from Howard. So then I stayed at Howard to get my master's in nutritional sciences while I was working on pre-med requirements to go to medical school. So in the midst of my journey in grad school, I had started a tutorial mentorship program when I was at Howard. That's actually how I met my wife at Howard. I was in grad, she was in undergrad, but we started a tutorial mentorship program that it brought in 150 volunteers from Howard, where we saved this local elementary school. We ran their foreign languages, we ran their music program. They lost their funding, and so it was one of the most fulfilling experiences I had being able to give back to these kids in the community. And so it led me into, a buddy of mine called me up and said, hey, there's another school looking for a coach and they need some help. And I said, sure, I'll help. And I mean, from the first day that I connected with those kids through track and running, it became such a magical experience. Now, I only thought I was going to volunteer for a year because I had done biomedical research at IUPUI, and basically I got into a program where I go 1 year, get my master's, and then I automatically get into the medical school. So fast forward a year, I was 2 weeks away from jumping into that program, and I gave my mother a call and I told her that I am really passionate about coaching. I was a physical science teacher. I was teaching physics and chemistry, and And, you know, and I'm still tripping to this day that, you know, my journey back in the day, all the challenges, here it is, I'm teaching physics and chemistry. And I would say that Howard just did, I mean, it just morphed me into a whole different person. But I fell in love with the teaching. I fell in love with, so I ended up deferring for a year. And I'm thinking, all right, just give me one more year with this. But then I fell in love even more. And I realized how good I was at it. You know, not just the coaching itself, but the changing of lives, where, you know, I get a chance to work with kids that have similar challenges or just different challenges, and they don't have the confidence. They don't, you know, they're not dreaming of what they can be and who they can be. And I'm looking at myself like, man, if I can do it, any of you guys can do it. And I realized that I was very inspiring to a lot of these athletes and changed the entire course of their lives. And I became addicted to that, and I just wanted more and more. And probably in my first 3 to 4 years of coaching, I was coaching 3 different teams. And and it was fascinating for me where I was able, I felt like I was given this gift. And I wanted to just continue to give back, and I became addicted to it. And 27 years later, I'm still loving it, still loving it.
It's been an amazing journey, and you haven't stopped the journey. The journey
No.
really has just started for you.
Yeah.
Because those who are watching will see that you look like one of the students that you're coaching now.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Youthfulness is a blessing for you, sir.
I appreciate
Genetics
it.
has been good. So
I try to lead by example and work out every day myself.
You know, now as I look at you, I'm getting ready. I have to go and work out myself again. I thought I had done something special, and I was like, I've got to hit that gym again. Got to hit the gym again.
That's what I hope to do, inspire others.
Yes, sir. So as you're inspiring, you're moving forward, because this story is getting juicy. This is getting good. So I know that you're going to say a lot of people need to read the book, Running Against the Odds.
Yeah.
But now you're in this program. You're getting ready to go. You're going to be Dr. Dunham, and you hit an epiphany, or you have a revelation that you say, I wanted to change course and start working with young people.
Yeah.
And then you started coaching multiple teams and multiple young people. How did that work in your dream? And what did you think after you started that, what did you think to yourself, how is this going to work?
Yeah. It was a big hump for me. It was something that I grapple with because, you know, that's a big deal in our community for someone to become a doctor, you know, and I wanted to make everyone proud. I felt like I had a lot of people that rallied behind me. When I got to Washington, D.C., I had some family already, you know, located in D.C. that left from Gary to move to D.C. My mom, who made a lot of sacrifices, but what ended up happening was I had a long talk with my mother, and she, you know, relieved me so much when she said to me that I don't care what you do, you just go out there and be the best at whatever it is. And I was so relieved after she shared that with me, and that gave me an out. That gave me the opportunity to live this dream. And like I said, I deferred for a year, so I had time to think about it. It wasn't a hasty decision. I also got a lot of support from my wife, who was always nudging me on to live out some of these passions and dreams, and I don't regret it to this day. And I've been able to make a career out of teaching, coaching. I'm an Under Armour coach and ambassador. Just recently did a TEDx talk about, you know, so I consider myself a youth sports expert, where not to try to make the next professional athlete, but how do you use sports to navigate through a better life? How do you pick up those life lessons through sports? And so that's something that I really enjoy doing, and getting our kids to look at the bigger picture of sports is just a microcosm of life, and if at the end of the day, if you're not becoming a better dad or a better husband or a better community member or a better leader through sports, I don't care how good you are, you're getting a warped experience of what it's all about. And I'm trying to, right a lot of the wrongs, because it's not all about the scoreboard all the time. It's about that experience that you're getting from the sports.
Now, as I'm looking through the book, I see that you've had a lot of experiences, a lot of travel, a lot of places. Can you think of a memorable time for you, that something that was memorable as it stood out as a point of reference where it helped to shape the future and how you were making moves and decisions that you were going to make in the future?
All right. How much time do we have?
As much as we need.
All right. So, I gotta tell two stories within one. And so, I really worked hard to be one of the best runners in my conference while I was attending Howard. I was running over 100 miles a week, so I'm putting in major work. I wasn't the most talented, but again, how you do anything is how you do everything. I wanted to be number one, and I just put everything into this season. Fast forward, we get 2 weeks away from our championships, and this is my senior year. I'm ranked one of the top 3, and I had beat each one of these guys, and each one of these guys had beat me. So, I knew it was going to be a 3-way race, but I had done my homework. 2 weeks away, I started getting this cough, and 2 days later, this cough starts to get worse. 3 or 4 days later, I walked myself to the ER room at like 2 in the morning, and that's when the doctor tells me I have bronchitis. And he ended up saying, "I'm sorry to say, but with the weather conditions, your season is over." And so the next day I go to my coach and I tell him, "Hey coach, I'm having, a bad cold with a bad cough, and I'll be all right in a few days." So at that point, if you don't live for some, you'll die for anything.
Right.
And it was just, I wasn't going to let my brothers down. Mm-hmm. I was very fortunate when I ran at Horseman, when I ran at Howard, I had a brotherhood. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I was the team captain. And if you read Running Against the Odds, you'll see I went through some challenges when I pledged Alpha and all this other stuff, and lost my scholarship, had to earn it back. And so I have been through a lot when it came down to this point. There was no way I wasn't towing the line for this, 8K race. So I ended up running this race. And I think I was 17th overall, but I was 3rd for our team, and I helped our team score points, and I ended up on the back of an ambulance. I collapsed, and that bronchitis had turned into pneumonia. And I'm in the hospital, and I'm smiling because, I felt like on that day, and of course I was disappointed, but I think the big disappointment would have been if I would have watched my brothers toe the line without me. And that's what I also try to teach some of our young folks. You got to have some grit, and at some point you got to make decisions that may not be the smartest decisions, but you got to live. You got to live for something, and people got to be able to depend on you no matter what the situation is. So after that happened, I kind of went into a little depression because I'm reflecting on everything. 100 miles, 2-3 sessions of training a day, and didn't achieve my goals. And so fast forward 3 months later from that experience, I end up having an opportunity to do a cultural exchange program to South Africa with my fraternity. This is where we went to the Soweto townships right after the Apartheid. And here it was, these homes look like huts, and no no sophistication with the roads or the water or the electricity. I mean, it was barely electricity. You have to go to the restroom. You got to walk a quarter of a mile just to go to the restroom. You know, I mean, there's 10 plates on the ceilings, and you know, no real floors in the homes, and I had the opportunity to experience that our people went through this apartheid, and they've been through things that we can't even imagine, and somehow their spirit wasn't broken. I spent Christmas with them, and it wasn't about the materialistic gifts that you got. It was the food, and it was the people you were enjoying it with. Mm-hmm. And it really gave me this epiphany in life that it's not about, you know, if I had won this race. It wasn't about if we had won it as a team. It wasn't, you know, I had given my very best. I felt like it was such an inspiring journey, you know, to be in the motherland. I felt like it was a spiritual connection. And it really, I mean, by the time I was there for 2 or 3 days, I didn't even know what being depressed was. I had this spark underneath me, and it just really opened up my eyes to understand that life is way bigger than a lot of these smaller situations that we're dealing with. And we just have to make sure that we open our eyes up to understand that we could have been born into any situation. No one has control over that, you know, and so it totally just gave me this major spark, put me even more on a mission that I got to be the one to get people to look at bigger pictures. You know, when you're going through challenges, you somehow engulf yourself in that moment, and you have this spotlight effect where you make it bigger than what it really is. And a lot of times, you know, it's not even real. It's real, but it's not, with some of the additives that we put to it. But, you know, we have to make sure that we keep everything in its proper perspective, and understand that we gotta, you know, figure out solutions to the problem and be able to still count our blessings. And so, you know, I'll just kind of sum it up that experience and to Soweto, South Africa, it made me count my blessings and not really focus on my problems. And that's something that Bar Marley used to always say.
One of the things that it's a continued theme throughout the book, and you've discussed it, and we've just had discussion after discussion, is leadership. Yeah. And you're talking about support, leadership, being there for your teammates, being a part of a team. What are the elements of leadership that you think are crucially important for any young person who's moving forward, not only just in sports, but in life in general?
So I would say a couple of things. One, the true essence of a great leader is influence. You know, it's influence. Now, unfortunately, you can be a leader that leads for good and for evil, and so we do have some leaders that we see. I'm not gonna go there, but
we have some evidence.
But you know, I would define a great leader as someone who has influence. You know, now the caveat to that is this the same leader that will have everyone on the same mission, with keeping in mind what's best for the followers. You know, if I'm the leader in my family, then I need to find out what are the needs of all my family members first. Right. And my plan has to be centered around leading them in the direction that allows us to help them to accomplish their goals and our mission as a family. And that our mission reflects the needs of each one of my family members. And that if there's food on the table and it's only food for 3 people and it's 4 of us, I don't eat, you know, and a lot of leaders don't understand that. Right. And there's a lot of leaders, they go eat first and they go get their portion first. And that's not a good leader. Now, you know, again, like you can have a leader that can influence others and brainwash and everything else. But when you know that you have a great leader, is that they're putting, you know, their constituents, they're putting their followers, those people who are depending on them first. And we just have too many positional leaders in life. They want the title, they want to be able to say the final word on, but they're not ready to make those sacrifices. And I think that you know, my family, my teams, they know that if, you know, we one time back in the day had to take a trip and we didn't have enough seats on the bus. So I went to the back of the bus, I stood up, and everybody's, you know, all the runners, Coach, come on, sit down. No, you guys are about to compete, you know. And so I think I've always earned that respect from my athletes, where they know that that they can always depend on me, and I'll be willing to give them my last. And so I think that's the true essence of a good leader. You got to be willing to make those sacrifices for others as you move them into the right direction to accomplish that mission.
One of the things that is most interesting is that you are a TED speaker. Now that's big. A lot of people don't think being a TED speaker is big. I think it's a huge. It's amazing.
Go check it out. Go check it out.
Okay. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to give you an opportunity to plug your TED Talk. Please tell the listeners how they can find your TED Talk.
All you got to do is Google Desmond Dunham and put TEDx in there. It'll come up on YouTube, and it's doing quite well so far. But I would love the support. And again, it's talking more about life lessons through sports for our youth, and making sure that you're doing it the right way. There's a glowing statistic out there that 70% of our youth athletes will stop playing organized sports by the age of 13. That's over 30 million kids that stop playing youth sports by 13 because they're being pushed the wrong ways. You know, there's this professionalization that's happening within youth sports. Kids are getting burnt out, they're getting injured, there's overuse. And one of the businesses that I own is Kids Elite Sports. We have over 1,000 families, and it's all about diversification over specialization, where we give them a variety, and we're teaching life lessons. And if you ever want to check out that, kidselitesports.com can give you more information. But we're totally doing it the wrong way. We're pushing our kids too hard, specializing them at an early age, and we're missing the boat, in terms of, developing better dads and wives and community leaders. We're driving these results hard, and we're really not, putting the focus on the development of the person. And so, but TEDx, Desmond Dunham, or you can go to my website, CoachDesDunham.com, and or you can follow me on Instagram with Coach Des Dunham. Yeah.
Well, all those things, amazing ways that people can keep up with you and follow you. As you've gone through this walk, what is the most important thing, as we've talked about a myriad of things?
Yeah.
What is the thing that you want to leave with listeners? What is that one thing that you want young people, parents, older people, what is that thing that you want them to take away from this interview?
Now, can I tell another story?
Sure, you can.
Right, so one of my favorite chapters is chapter 8 in Running Against the Odds, and the title of it is More Than a Ribbon. And this was in high school, and I started to prepare for this really big competition in high school, cross country race. And if you get in the top 10, you end up getting to sit in these big lavish chairs. You get this humongous medallion, and you're getting this in front of thousands of folks. And so, you know, I wanted to be in this top 10. I had been training, running about 60-ish miles a week, and finally that day comes. It's about 350 of us that toe the line at the Lafayette Jeff Invitational, and the gun goes off, and it's like a big stampede going across the field. And I'm just dreaming about being in this top 10. So after the first mile, I'm in a pack of a top 20, the lead pack, and I'm like, all right, I'm in a perfect position because I'm gonna have a blistering finish. I'm gonna outkick everyone. And after that first mile, I realized I'm laboring a little bit more than I had anticipated. But but that's okay. I'm gonna fight through it. Chest started to burn a little bit. Legs started to get a little heavy. By mile 2, I started to hit this wall. Now, the race is 3.1 miles, and the last mile, I ended up just going backwards. And I ended up getting 75th place in this meet, far off from top 10. And I ended up getting this ribbon. And I get the ribbon, tears streaming from my eyes. I mean, my head down, I'm dejected. And it's a little rain pour. And I end up throwing the ribbon down. It goes into a little puddle, a mud puddle, and Chief, my coach, sees it, and he's always the one that teaching the life lessons. Desmond, pick up that ribbon. And of course, he has a commanding voice. I pick it up, it got mud all on it, and I go sit on the bus. I put my hoodie on. I mean, I felt like one of the loneliest people in the world. And eventually he calls me up to the back, to the front of the bus, and he keeps it short and sweet. He says, Desmond, you're a hell of a runner. You're an even better person, but sometimes in life, nothing's going to be handed to you. You got to make a decision on if you're going to let this race define you or if you're going to let it define you. I didn't know what the heck he meant by that, but after laying in my bed, looking up at the ceiling, thinking, this is the worst thing in the world. Eventually, the next day comes, the sun comes up, things move on, and I, got this idea. I took this ribbon and I hung it next to my light switch. So every single day I turn that light switch on, I'm looking at that ribbon. Man, I went from running 60 miles a week to running about 75, 80 miles a week. I started doing more push-ups. I started doing more core work. And it was that ribbon that 1 year later, I go back to this same competition and I ended up getting second place. And that was also the competition that started to give me some attraction from Howard University in my senior year. And so what that ribbon did for me, what that adversity did for me, was way more than any other medal or trophy. And it was just a life lesson, but it was also a reminder that a lot of us have this negative relationship with failing. And we should have actually a positive relationship where we're willing to embrace it. So when I put that ribbon up there, all of us got ribbons in our lives where we're disappointed. And some people, we let it define us and we just go down this rabbit hole and we never recover from it. Or you can actually learn from it and allow that to be your motivation. And I want to say that that ribbon gave me motivation for 365 days. And I still have that ribbon to this day. I don't know where my medals are. I don't know where my trophies are. I don't really care. I care about that ribbon. And so that story was very pivotal for me between my junior to my senior year in high school. And that's what I want to share with our audience, is that we all are going to have ribbons. We all are going to have our challenges. But what you do with that ribbon will determine, your attitude and your altitude in life.
True. Let's say this in wrapping up. First of all, give the listeners a way to be able to contact you, follow you, be able to move and move along with Running Against the Odds and what's coming next?
Yep. Yeah, you can find Running Against the Odds on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. Check out the book. Give me some reviews. Check out the TEDx talk. Give me a thumbs up on that. And you can follow me on Instagram at Coach Des, D-E-Z, Dunham, D-U-N-H-A-M, or you can go to my website at CoachDesDunham.com.
Coach, let me ask this. After Running Against the Odds, there has to be a follow-up to this great book.
Yeah.
It's an inspirational journey, but it's also a life lesson.
Yeah.
So what's in store moving forward? I know there's got to be something else. So what's coming next?
Two big things coming next. I'm writing a book with my wife right now, and it's going to be a fiction based on a true story, a little spin-off from there. But what's really big is I want to take part 3 of Running Against the Odds, and we are in the initial stages of pitching to filming companies where we can try to get part 3 of the book on the big screen, Netflix, Disney, where we're going all out, and we're not stopping until we get some results. So you will be seeing Running Against the Odds on a movie screen at some point.
Yes, sir. You have to push. You have to keep praying until something shakes and something moves and something happens.
No doubt about it.
And one thing that we've learned about Running Against the Odds is it's not just a story.
Yeah.
It's a life lesson.
Correct. And you do not have to be a runner to appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now, that's the most important thing, because as you can see, I retired from running a long time ago. I like to tell people, in my mind, I was a 100 and 400.
I love it. I love it.
I was that in my mind. I used to, as an athlete, and then you knew when I was playing ball, I said that's not going to happen. But it was something that I pushed towards. But everyone has to have a marker. They have to have a goal. They have to have some type of point.
Yeah.
Where they say, this is my point, and then this is the motivation. They all have to have a ribbon somewhere.
100%.
They all must have a ribbon. So I'd like to thank you, Coach. I know that you took out of your time, and we appreciate it so much, because we're here in a lovely facility. It's a secret recording facility.
I love it.
Hey, man, thank you so much for being a part.
Totally my pleasure.
And what I'm going to do is wrap it up now. This is our interview with Coach Desmond Dunham, Running Against the Odds. You can find it on Amazon. Look for his TED Talks, and make sure that you like and subscribe to all of his further endeavors. You're listening to The Sizzle here on and presented by Iron Skillet Media.